Welcome to Live DAF, your online DAF Yomi Shir.
Shalom Aleichem and welcome back to today's DAF, the last and final DAF of our Dir Merseches, Bava Kamma, DAF Kuf Yotes. We are holding 2 lines off the top of the Yomit. The Mishnah instructs us to take care from whom we buy merchandise. Make sure it's not stolen goods. So we have like this. You're not meant to purchase from those who are shemrim. They guard orchards. So you shouldn't buy the produce from them for concern that they really took it from the orchard that they're watching. Says the Gemara, Rav, however, Zavan Shabishta Me'arisa. There was an aris, right, a sharecropper. And Rav approached him to purchase vine twigs. And the question is how? Why did he do that? How come we trusted him that it's not stolen goods? Amali Abaye V'Hatanan, the Mishnah says you're not meant to. You're meant to buy from these people, whether it's the wood, the twigs, or the fruit. So why are you buying from the oris? Maybe he stole it from the owner. Amar Lesi says, Hani Mila B'Shemer. That only pertains to a watchman, the Leslie, Begufa the Aramidi. He gets paid, he gets a salary. He's not meant to take a part of the actual produce. So what's he doing? Selling stuff from the field. Aval oris, but an oris is meant to take a percentage of the actual crop. So here we can say, well, maybe he's selling his own stuff, and therefore I'm buying it from him. Tanu Rabbanan. We have situations where it's pretty clear and evident that it's a legitimate, he's an honest vendor. How? Shemrei Perus. So even a fellow who's a shemer, we can still buy from him when it's clear that he's engaged in legal transactions. We can buy from them when they're sitting and selling, the baskets of fruit right there, the scale is right there. Rashi says it's derech hatargor, it's the way of the merchants, it's befar hesi, it's out in the open. These aren't your local thieves. These are real, merchants. However, b'kulan, in all cases, if they tell you, hide the stuff, don't tell anybody. She'amru hatmein, then it's usher, because then it's clearly stolen stuff. Likewise, you can buy, if they're sitting at the entranceway to the garden, out in the open, publicly visible, then it's okay. As opposed to behind the gina, in which case you're concerned that they're hiding because they're criminals and they're selling stolen stuff. Itmar, here comes a shaila. Gazlan, we know a person is a gazlan, and he has in his possession, money and things that he stole. So at what point are we allowed to start buying from him? Okay, so he was engaged in gazela, but then he got onto the regular track. He became a regular businessman, and we know that he has a lot of honestly earned money, right? So at what point are we allowed to engage him in business? Rav Amar Ad Shetei Roiv Mishaloi. We need Roiv. We need to establish that most of his money was really his, and therefore you can follow the Roiv and you can deal with him. Ushmul Amar Filu Miut Shaloi. Even if part of the money is his, that would be sufficient to allay this fear. You can rely on that and you can deal with him. Rabbi Yehuda gave a psak to this fellow who was called La'ada Daila. He was a Daila. He was Rashi says a shamas to Rabbanan. His name was Adan. He was a shamas. He would go serve the chachamim and he was a buyer, right, for them. He helped them. So he went like the shita that I call it, that like Shmuel, that even if part of the money is honest money, then you can deal with it. Now we learned yesterday about a Masr, a fellow who he identifies Jewish property and he hands it over to the authorities. He he's an informer, right? He snitches and he gets people in trouble. So the halacha is that he's like you're allowed to be ma'abid, you're allowed to be kill him, right? Mamin masa. What about his property? What about his possessions? Rav Huna, Rav Yehuda, Chad Amar Mutal Abda Biyad. There's machlekes between Rav Huna and Rav Yehuda. One says you're allowed to destroy his possessions as well. Chad Amar Asr La Abda Biyad. The other one disagrees. Why? Man Amar Mutal Abda Biyad. The sheet that says that's allowed. Well, it's no better than himself. You're allowed to kill him. You're allowed to kill his possessions, right? His mammon, his possessions cannot be more valuable than himself, right? And, if you're allowed to apply misa to the person, of course, to his possessions, right? But the shita which says keep away from his possessions, you know why? True, this fellow was up to no good. Maybe his kids. You never know, his kids might turn around. Uksiv, as the pasuk says, Yochan Rasha, right? The father was a Rasha, prepares and amasses a great fortune, but it wasn't meant for himself. The tzaddik Gilbash. The tzaddik wears it, the tzaddik enjoys it. So, true, he himself was deserving of punishment, but leave his possessions alone. It might end up in good hands. Rav Chizda had this worker, the sharecropper, who took more than his share. He would weigh and give, weigh and take for himself 50-50, which was more than he's supposed to take. So he's basically cheating him. Salke, so he removed him from his position, and he got back what his things. Koran Afshen, he applied to himself the pasuk. Rav Chizda did. The possessions of the chayt of the sinner was really earmarked for the tzaddik, as in this case where he got back his things. We have a pasuk describing a gazlan. Ki matikvas chanev ki yivtza ki yishal kan nafshay. What's the purpose of being a chanev and being dishonest? Hashem is going to take away the nefesh. So basically, being involved in dishonesty is something which triggers removal of life. We have two ways to explain this pasuk. Is it going on the perpetrator? He's deserving of misa for stealing and robbing. Or is it going on the victim? Taking his money is tantamount to taking his life, which he invested in earning that money. Rav Huna, Rav Chizda. Once again, these two Amoraim. The pasuk here is describing taking the nefesh of the victim. Taking his money is like taking his life. The pasuk means something different. The gazlan will lose his life. Hashem will take his life for stealing. So the one that says that it's going on the victim, is a different pasuk, which clearly ties the two things together. The way of the robber is to take the nefesh, the life of its owner. It's going on the victim. Stealing is taking his life. The one that learns that it's going on the gazlan, don't steal. Hashem will take up their case, and will punish, by dealing with their lives. So clearly, it's going on the gazlan. The gazlan loses his life for being involved in this type of activity. Now, according to the other shita, it's going on the victim. So why does the pasuk say nefesh ba'alav yikach? The one that's the shita that says that it's going on the gazlan, right? So what does he do with the pasuk nefesh ba'alav yikach? Nefesh ba'alav yikach is indicative of the fact that it's going on the bottom of the money, right? The one that's victimized. My ba'alav means ba'alav the hashta, the one who owns it now, meaning the ganav who's in possession of that money, he will lose his life as a result. Now the other approach, which related the pasuk to the victim, right? What does he do with the words of kavas kavayim nefesh? Right, that Hashem takes the life of the kaveh, of the gazlan. Says the word matam kama. The pasuk means like this. It's explaining why matam v'kaveh kaveh, and why does Hashem punish the perpetrator mishum, because the kaveh nefesh, because they attacked the nefesh, they took the life of the victim. Amar Rabbi Yechanan, You take a shava pruta which doesn't belong to you, as though you took his life. Right? As nevesh balavikach, taking his life. He invested his whole, what a person, gives away just to earn his money. Right? Then he could take that money and use it to buy food, to revive himself and feed himself and nurture himself. So money is like his nefesh. We have another pasuk, a similar pasuk, which ties the two together, highlighting the severity of stealing money. It's not just money; it's his life that you're taking. He took away your money. It's as though he took away your children. Another pasuk, a similar pasuk, Rabbi Yehuda, they were dishonest. It's as though they killed them. Another pasuk, al Shaul beis Adamim. Shaul HaMelech was responsible for killing the Giv'onim. Al asher hemes Giv'onim. You took away their source of sustenance, the parnasas, as though you killed them. So we have a list of psukim pretty much sending the same message. Why the repetition? What's the point of going through all the psukim? But perhaps like this. There's a reason why we're adding and adding and adding. Nefesh Day. The first pasuk speaks about taking the life. You're attacking the life of your victim. Nefesh Day. Perhaps you're not held accountable for his children. No, comes the next pasuk. Taking his money is tantamount to attacking his entire family. Okay, perhaps that's only when you didn't pay for it. You just stole. Let's say you forcibly purchased. You paid for it. How do we deal with that? Comes the next pasuk, right? So maybe that's not so severe. Comes the next pasuk. No, it's just as bad. Chamas means forcibly purchasing. It's as though you murdered him. So it's only when he actually went ahead and stole it. But let's say he just causes him to lose his parnasa by causation. What about that? Does it have the same severity? Yes. Shaul is considered guilty. We blame him for killing the Givayim. What does that mean? Where do we find in Tanakh that he killed Givayim? He never killed them. So why is it considered as such? What happened was that David HaMelech was being protected by the Kohanim and Noiv. Shaul HaMelech, upon hearing this, right, upon hearing that they're protecting David HaMelech, who he was pursuing, held it against them, and he killed out the Kohanim. And these Giv'onim, there was a group of people who came in the time of Yeshua, and they pretended to be, foreigners. So he tricked them into accepting them into the sort of community and keeping them alive. So they were like sort of slaves, and they served the Kohanim by, Rashi says, they were the wood suppliers and the water suppliers for the Mizbeach and the Mikdash, and they were being supported constantly by the Kohanim. That was their source of parnasa. And because there were no more Kohanim, because Shaul HaMelech killed them, there was no longer parnasa, sustenance for the Giv'onim. They lost their parnasa. The Kohanim would support them with water and food. So because his actions brought about the cessation of this arrangement, and the Giv'onim lost their livelihood, Torah treats it as though he killed them. So taking away livelihood, even through a grama, through causation, is just as bad. If you're living in the Yehuda territory, you can purchase woolen garments from the Nashim, because that was their sort of their hobby. That's what they would do for a living. And it's a legitimate transaction. They weren't stealing; it was a honest thing. If you're living in Galil, the same applies to pishtan garments. So typically, we are concerned that perhaps the woman siphoned off things that don't belong to her. But here, this was their thing, and we know that we assume that it's a proper deal. Right? You shouldn't be buying other merchandise from the Nashim. Perhaps they stole from their husbands, yenos, wines, oils, and all kinds of flowers. Likewise, you shouldn't buy anything from slaves or from youngsters. If a woman is offering you something just for a couple of dollars, 4 or 5 dinar, a small amount, you can buy it. We're assuming the husband is not too concerned. He allows her to do this in order for her to earn some income, to buy herself some sort of cap. In all cases, they tell you to hide. Take this, but hide it. Don't tell anybody. So that arouses our suspicion. You shouldn't be dealing with them. What about a gabayit tzedakah? Those tzedakah collectors, are they allowed to take donations from women? If it's a small donation, they can take from the women, but not a large donation, unless they ask their husbands for permission. What about oil pressers? You can buy from them olives if they're a large amount, a couple of pounds. If it's a larger amount of oil, which is measured, basically a significant quantity, in which case we know it's not stolen because they're doing it outright in public. Just a small amount, a couple of olives, a little bit of oil, is always concerned that perhaps they siphoned it off from one of their customers. Keep away. Rabban Shimon, well, if you're living in Gadol where things were, the oil was very tight, very expensive there. So there, perhaps the husband is embarrassed to sit and sell a couple of ounces of oil. He asks his wife to do it for him. Okay? So you can purchase a couple of olives from the women, even if it's such a small amount. If it's in Begal in the upper Galilee, perhaps over there, there's a special reason because the fellow was embarrassed to sit there and sell his couple of olives. He gives it to his wife to do it. So there you assume it's a legitimate deal. On the topic of the gabayit tzedakah, being careful with their collections, we have a story involving Ravina. Okay, Ravina Ikl ben Bnei Bechayze came to Mechayze, a wealthy town. Also, women in the town came, Ramu, Kameh, and they put forth to him kavle b'sheirei, necklaces and bracelets for tzedakah. He was a gabayit tzedakah, Ravina. Couple of night accepted it as donations. Amali Rabbi Ravina Rabbi turned to him and said, "How can you do that?" But Tani, we learned in a brayso, you have to be careful. Only small donations can you accept, not large ones. Gabayit tzedakah mekabel and davar muat, right? Avalei davar merubah. Can you take these very expensive donations? Perhaps they took it without permission. Amar lei, so he responded, "Well, for Bnei Bechayze people, this is a small change. Hani Bnei Bechayze davar muat. Wealthy people, for them, this is small change, and therefore it is allowed." Continues the Mishnah. Muchen sha'koives moitzi. Koives is a launderer, fellow who does commercial laundry. So he would wash your begadim, and then he would clean out his filter, and he finds some fibers out of your begadim. He can keep that. The owner doesn't care about that. Keep it gesundheit. What about the fellow who would soyrek? They would scrape, they would comb begadim somehow to soften things and smooth it out and straighten out the fibers. So that was a different type of profession. Whatever he gets out of the beged, any type of fibers, this is something more significant. This goes back to the owner. Hare'elo shabalabais. A koives, so back to the laundromat, noitel gimel chutim. Rashi explains that when they would finish the beged, sewing, weaving a beged, they would leave a couple of threads at the edge of a different type, like a thicker or thinner, different color. So it would be at least 3 of them at the side. So the koives who finishes, his washing job, and he was giving you back the nice new beged, he's allowed to remove those 3 chutim which don't really belong there, don't match to the beged. Eventually, you can keep it. Yosef Mekan, if you have more than 3 chutim there, that he cannot keep, that's too significant. Hareil Shabbalabais gives it back to the owner. Let's say the border threads were a different color, it was black on a white garment, so it's meant to be removed entirely. You can take the whole business and keep it. Eventually. Now let's go to the tailor. So he had some material to make your suit. Sheshir achut. He had some thread left over. Can he keep it? Or does he have to give it back to the owner? It depends how long it is. They lit for boy, if there's enough to sew with it. Umatlas, he has some extra material. She gimel 3x3 etz boys, 3 widths, in width. Hareilo shvalabais, the owner keeps that. That's too substantial for the chaya to keep. But if it's smaller than that, then the tailor just hangs on to that. What about a carpenter doing some work with your material? What a carpenter derives from his ma'atzad, which is a small, little hatchet, a small type of, kardim, Rashi, a small hack or some sort of saw. So the wood material that gets shed at that point, that's not significant enough for the Baal Bayis to really be concerned. So this sawdust goes to the Harei L'Shalei, goes to the carpenter. Ubi kashal, but if it's coming from a large piece of equipment, which like an axe, right, which hacks off big pieces, so that goes to the Baal Bayis. Shabal Bayis. What about if this carpenter was not a commissioned job? Rather, he was a sacher. He was, a day worker, a day laborer. So he's doing my work. So there, so he's working my house and he's sort of my day laborer. So it's a different story. There, he doesn't deserve anything. Anything that any sawdust, anything. Even the small, sawdust, belongs to the Baal Bayis. That's the assumption, that's the deal. So a kablan, a fellow who took it by commission, he was commissioned, so to speak, to do the job. That's the derech that he keeps, a couple of odds and ends. But the sacher is just a plain worker, everything to the Baal Bayis. Tanarabban, loichem moichem and a koivis again is a laundromat, so you can buy from him, bunches of fibers. You're allowed to approach the laundromat and get it from him. We assume this is something which he collected from all his jobs. Let's go back to those threads at the end of the garment. The koivis can grab those 2 chutin and keep it. And the question is going to be, well, in the Mishnah we have 3. He can keep up to 3, and we say only up to 2. We'll see that in a minute. Now, we spoke about a koivis and a soirik. So a soirik would first stretch out the beged. He would make these clamps, right? These sort of like loops, which he would hang on to some sort of equipment, and he stretched the beged and flatten it out, and then he would trim the sides. That's the way they used to do it. So chayvin are these stitches. So when he would clamp the corners with these loops, because then it's going to really grab the material and stretch it. So no more than 3 ins and outs, and that's going to be enough to hang on to the loop without stretching the beged too much. In which case it's going to be out of shape and you have to trim it even more and cause him a loss. So that's the limit. Now when you do srika, which is the scraping and rubbing and combing, you don't do it l'shisyoi, so a beged has threads going in 2 directions, right? So the ones going vertically were considered shesi, and the other ones horizontally is erev. And erev with typically thicker, more durable threads. So when you do the srika, be careful, don't do it up down, in which case it's more delicate. Rather do it across a ervoi, which could sustain the scraping. Now when it comes time to trim the corners, because once he stretches it, it's all out of shape, you got to trim it down. So you do it along the length, which makes sense, because if you're doing the srika back and forth, right to left, so you're going to have the uneven edges, la'arkai, right and left, going up down according to the length, right, of the beged. Avaloi l'rachboi, but you should not be trimming it on the narrow side, right? Apparently the unevenness there is not so significant, and therefore you should not be touching that part. Perhaps that's the reason. Now, if you're trying to trim the edges to straighten it out, until a tefach, let trim. But if it's more than that, leave it alone. The koivis can grab the 2 chutin at the end of the beged. The Mishnah says 3. So Loikash answers like this: there are thicker threads, then the max is 2. But if it's thinner, insignificant, up to 3 is okay. So the srika is done right to left rather than up down. If we have a brayso which goes the other way, like Kasha answers like this: if it's a glima, something that you wear every day, so the point over there is durability. The concern is more durability rather than looks. So there you should do it in a way that prolongs the longevity protects the longevity of the beged. The other brayso which says do it the other way is going on a sarbal, some sort of like an overcoat which is meant for niceness or whatever. So there, the point is the aesthetics are more important, and therefore do it across Do it, vertically, which ends up looking nicer. Okay. And when you attach those loops to grab it to the clamp, don't stretch it too strongly. But Rabbi Yirmiyah, what does it mean? Shleisha chayvin, 3 stitches. In and out is considered 2, or in is 1 and out is another one. Amtuyi v'asui, going in and out is chad, is considered 1 stitch, so it's a total of 6, 2, 4, 6. Oidum atuyi asui tray, take, or perhaps going there and back is considered 2 stitches for a total of 3, which is allowed. Take it, we leave it unresolved. Mashvei la'orke v'lei l'rachboi, right, even and out this way and not that way. Vatani, if we have a bracelet which goes the other way, the kasha answers like this: Haba glima, if it's that glima beged, in which case you're scraping it, back and forth, like we said before, which sustains its durability. So there, the unevenness is going to be on the right and left side towards the length of the beged, right? So that's where you even it out that way. But if it's just a belt, so which part of the belt is visible? Only the narrows at the end. The long one's just wrapped anyways. So there, you shouldn't be touching the long side, rather only the narrow side. So the Seirik, again, is the fellow who is scraping and scratching. So this fellow's moichin, his clumps of fiber should not be touched. You shouldn't be buying that from him because he's not supposed to be keeping that, as we learned in the Mishnah. Those are significant remnants which should not be kept by the Seirik, rather return to the owner. Okay. But in a place where they had a minute that the Seirik keeps that, okay, then you can buy it from him. It's not stolen. Now, in any place, wherever you are, if the fellow is offering you a car or a kesses, car I believe is a mattress, kesses a pillow, filled with these fibers, then it's okay. You can buy it from him. Why? My time of why? Maybe it's stolen. Well, either way, kaninu b'shinu. He changed its form. He transformed it into a finished product. Now he's kaninu b'shinu. You can buy it from him. Tanarabanan. What about a weaver? Keep away from his stuff. It might be stolen. You can't buy from him. All types of materials that he might use for the customer, which he siphoned off. So irin is the plug which they put into the tube where they keep the Erev threads, sort of like a little pipe from which the Erev threads come out. So they stuff it with some material. Don't take that from him. Don't buy that from him. Nirin. The chutin, the threads, in which they use to hang up to keep up to propel to prop up the chutei ashsi, the vertical threads. V'loy punkelin, that's some sort of threads which are used also to keep the threads that are being weaved in place. V'loy shiura, not the remnants of pekiyos, of the balls of the chutim of shesi. Don't buy any of this stuff because it might be stolen. But if they're processed, if it's a full garment, even if it's like spotted, meaning it's comprised of so many different types of materials, looks like a spotted leopard, it's still okay because it's a finished product. Like we said before, he's kind of b'shine. Erev v'shesi, tavi v'arug. So it's not clear what erev v'shesi means. Maybe it means processed, fully processed threads. Erev v'shesi. Tavi v'arug means spun, threads that are spun ba'arig and woven. So perhaps it's going back on the erev v'shesi. Anyways, we're speaking about fully processed stuff. That's a different story. That's okay. Right? Because as we said, he was kind of b'shina. At worst case, he stole it, but now it's his. Amri, the question is like this. Why mention spun and woven? You spin and then you weave. So if it's spun, if it's woven, it's automatically spun. So if it's spun, it's okay. So why speak about woven, right? Amri hashta tavi shakli. If you can buy spun, arug, what do you speak about woven, which comes after spinning? My arug tichi. We can have an arug which is not yet spun. How's that? Tiki. So sort of like they braided some sort of chain made of raw threads which are not spun, raw fibers. So you have arug. It looks like some sort of arug format, finished product, but it's not yet spun. So the point of the price is to say either way he's kind of a shinoi, and you can buy it from him. What about a fellow who dyes material, a different profession? Keep away from him. You can't buy oises. These are a small piece of material, like samplers. So they check it to see whether it's going to catch the dye. So again, perhaps it doesn't belong to him. You shouldn't buy from him. different types of samplers. So basically, these are pieces of material that are already dyed, different colors, used to, show the owner, the different possibilities. So again, this material probably belongs to somebody. You shouldn't be buying from him. Nor should you buy little, scraps of wool, of wool, which he may have taken off, taken away from the material that he was given to dye. But you can purchase from him a fully dyed garment, or material that was spun, fibers that was spun, or full begadim, full clothing. Now again, the same kasha. Why the repetition? Hashta tavi shakli. You buy just threads that was spun, begadim. Why speak about begadim which come at a later state? My begadim namti. We have begadim which have not yet been through the tavi stage, felt. You took raw fiber and you sort of press it together. So you have begadim, and they're finished products, but they haven't yet gone through the spinning stage. And still it's okay because it's considered a finished product. He was kind of b'shina. Turn it up on him. Now we go to a tanner. So you give him your hides to process, hakitsuin. So little odds and ends that he snips off the sides, vatlushin, or some wool that he might have plucked off the hides. Hareilish balabais belongs to the owner. But any small little fibers that come from his washing the thing, that's insignificant. That he keeps, and it's legitimately his. The Bailam is not makpid, he's mafkir, it's his. You know why we call the launderer, the fellow who does the laundry, we call him katzra. You know why? It's lashon of katzar, he shortens. He snips your begadim, and he's always, siphoning off little, the katzra shakalei, because he takes those threads and whatever off the beged. So, which threads are we speaking about? The ones at the border, right? So the tailor leaves like sort of like a protective, strip of threads at the end of the material, and really, it counts as part of the material. Tchelis is a reference to the mitzvah of tzitzis, which is called tchelis because it has the blue thread. So there is a minimum distance that you should be keeping away from the edge of the beged. So the tzitzis is meant to be hung at a certain distance from the end. It's meant to be in the beged, right? Rashi calls it malay kesher goydel, like the middle joint of your thumb. That's how far the tzitzis should be from the edge of the beged. Now, question is, what counts as what's included in that distance? Just the main material, even those, the border strip at the end. So according to Rabbi Yehuda, as long as it's on there, it's part of the material and it counts, it's included in that shear. But Yitzchak Bri, my son Yitzchak, was very makbid. Kabbalah, he was makbid not to include that in the shear, rather to require that amount of material above and beyond, in addition to those threads, that border strip, and after that he puts the tzitzis. Hachayot sheshir es achut. So a tailor had some thread left over. If there's enough there to use for litfer to sew, then that's significant. He should not be giving it back. He should give it back to the owner. Bava Kamma litfer. What's considered enough to sew? Omar basa malay achut. Malay machat, v'chutz lo machat. So you have enough thread, which first of all equals the size of the actual needle, and also beyond a little bit more. That's too significant to just give up and to keep. You boil the questions like this: how much, in addition to the needle? Malay machat v'chutz lo machat kulay machat. We need a malay machat, and aside from that, chutz lo machat, the thread stretches beyond that. Kimlay machat, again, the size of the needle. Let's say the needle is 2 inches, so we have 2 inches plus 2 inches, a total of 4. That's significant. Or no, you don't need that much. Malay machat v'chutz lo machat mashu. You need a machat length plus a little bit out. A little bit in addition. That's already significant. Hashmai comes a raya that it means the first way, the sanya. The Bryce says, Achayat shashir hachsachut. He had enough thread. Pachas they lit for a boy. There's not enough to, for it to serve any function of sewing. Umatlis, shepchusa mishal shashal, a small, teeny piece of material smaller than 3x3 etz boys. So can the fellow keep it? It depends. If the owner cares. If the owner wants it, he keeps it. has to give it back to the Baal Bayis. Ein Baal Bayis makbid alim. If we know the Baal Bayis doesn't care, so the fellow can keep it. Now, let's analyze the price. This all makes sense if you say what share are we speaking about? What share of thread is useful for future use? The Mlay Mlachat plus another Mlay Mlachat. Right? So the Brisa says, look, if it's less than that, can he keep it? Well, it depends. If the Baal Bayis wants it back. Evidently, there's some use, some function. You can use it for something. Pachas Makan. So even if it's less than the 4 inches, Chazir L'Sichsa can be used for, like one stitch in that, to attach the loop over there, to the clamp, to stretch the bag, like we said before. So it has some function. Even a small piece of thread can work. So it makes sense that he wants it back. Eli Amris. But if you can go the other route, that the smallest, the thread that we're speaking about, that the guy wants to keep, is Malay Machat v'chutz l'machat mashu. Right? It's the size of the machat and just a bit outside the machat. So we say like this: if the owner wants it back, you have to return it. Well, if it's so small, what's he going to do with it? Pachis mekan l'maychazi. Why would he want it back? What's going to a little piece of thread? This proves our point that we're speaking about Malay Machat v'chutz l'machat. The thread equals the size of the machat v'chutz l'machat, and in addition to that, Malay Machat, size of another needle. So again, so it's the size of a needle plus. So the thread is as long as 2 needles. That's too much to keep, right? And he has to return, but less than that, it's still functional, still useful. So there it depends. The owner is makbid or not. Shmamino. Masha charash. Let's move on to the carpenter. The Mishnah says, any wood droppings from the ma'at sad, which is like a small type of axe, that goes to the carpenter. Ramini, we have a brisa which says it goes to the owner. Masha charash Moshe b'ma'at sad. That's our piece of equipment. But if anything falls after the saw, harei it goes to the owner, not to the carpenter. But if it's really small sawdust, like from the drill, some other type of like a plane, coming out of the sawdust, the carpenter keeps that. So what about the matzat? Mishnah says it goes to the carpenter. Here it says it goes to the owner. Amarava, it depends like this. Ba'asra the Tana done. There's not much of a machlekes here. It's just a different point of reference. They dealt with different types of names for different types of equipment. In the place where our Tana lived, our Mishnah, there were different types of, 2 types of, axes. The Rabbasi called it kashil. The large one was called a kshil, so that produces large pieces of remnants. And that goes to Baal Bayis. Uzatrasi called a matzah. The small one, which produces small, little, scraps, that's called a matzah, and that's insignificant. That goes to the professional. But in the place where the Tana of the Brisa lived, there was only one type of axe, one type of saw. It was called a matzah, the big one. So here, the remnants goes to the Baal Bayis because it's significant, and he doesn't give up on that. Okay, so he wants that back. What about the stone hewers, those who deal with shaping stones? So the stone remnants, the stone chips, don't worry about gezel. The owner doesn't want it back. He has nothing, from it. What about those who prune trees or vines? They pull out these, they're landscapers and they're gardeners, and they pull out the thorns and these, bushes. They weed out the thorns off the weeds. And they clean out the vegetable garden. Sometimes they pull out some overcrowded growths. So all these types of materials, can they keep it or not? If the owner wants it back, keeping it as gezel. But any balbais makar, if the owner doesn't care about it, Harishal, you can keep it. Rabbi Yehuda Kishus, which is hops, apparently didn't have much value. V'chazes, small green grain, which the animals would eat. These things are not much, don't have much value, and the owner, doesn't really care about these wild growths. Evam shem gezel, you can take it. So kishus apparently was this common thing there, and people, didn't really care to hold on to it. And chazes is like this wild growing thing. Once again, the owner doesn't care much. And Farshim explained there's, cultured chazes, which is, grown. That's something which, of course, the fellow wants. But wild growth, you can take it. Evam shem gezel. That's the assumption, right? But Asr the Kapti, if you're living in a place where they're careful, they want it back, they're makbid. In this case, don't get near the items. Yeshvam Shem Gezel, you shouldn't be touching it. There's an issue of Gezel. Ravina, I'll give you an example. Amata Machasya, a place called Machasya, Asr the Kapti, there they had lots of animals, and Rashi says they need good grazing areas. Don't touch the animal feed, the chaz's thing, because they need every drop of it. And they wouldn't give it up for no good reason. Okay, let's recap today's daf, which is pretty much, revolving around that one single point. Be careful about other people's property, and when a person approaches a vendor and purchases material or items, he should take care that it's coming from an honest source, and there's no issue of dishonesty and Geneva. We delineated all these different types of yes and no's, depending on which profession. You're part of laundromats and the seirik and the matzah and the painters and the carpenters and all that. And it's all about what the derech is, and the Chacham established these are reasonable remnants which the owner is not makbid. And apparently, that's the default assumption, unless you know otherwise. This way, you'll be careful, and all money earned will be erlich geld, and Hashem will shik a bracha v'atzlacha. There's no need to go around the bend and cut corners. Hashem provides for all. Hashem is a meitiv, hu meitiv, hu yetiv lanu. Hadran lacha gezel basra, v'sikala, mehazechas Bava Kamma. Hashem, who was meitiv with us until now, Hashem should continue as Hashem. We should be zeicha to the ultimate toiv, ein toiv el Torah. It's been a pleasure to learn the daf over and over together with you. May we be zeicha to continue gesund to hate, learning and steiging besimcha, with hatzlacha, with gesund, with parnasa, ad bi'es goyel tzedek me'er b'yamin amen. Mazel tov.
Sis de soy saco yiro ki lo nu was de yiro oi zrito no gil de no sis de soy saco yiro ki lo nu was de yiro I know gil de no sis de soy saco yiro ki lo nu was de yiro oi zrito no gil de no sis de soy saco yiro ki lo nu was de yiro No,